Hello, this is Maty from Challenge and TAFE. Before we'll do a progress report in regards to Voice over IP, which was the lecture you've given us on our last design class. We did a fair bit of stuff with it already, so we thought we'll give you a video-based progress report, seeing as you're in America at this time. So let's do a show run here, and I'll just run you through the quick config that we've got. Let's go scroll up. Alright, well, first things first is we had to configure the HCP. This will allow us to give us, or this will allow our devices and computers to get IP addresses. The reason why I got two DHCP pools is because we have to use two VLANs, one for the data, so the computers, and one for the phones, so voice traffic can travel through those. That way we can keep all the data separated. We also got some multicast routing happening, only because we've got music on hold set up, which needed some multicasting to actually occur. So that's been allowed. We also we tried to set up some SIP clients and anything that runs with H323, but we haven't actually got that far yet. So that's probably something for us later we can do. The reason that I put our username and password on here is because we've got a special GUI that we found and we'd like to show you as well. It helped us to configure the voice over IP phones very well. So that's something we'll show you in this after we go through this config. Also got two sub interfaces here because we've got two VLANs, so we need to trunk between the two in order to get data between both of them if we need to. That's also how we got our GUI based software to work as well. So as you can see, we've got encapsulation.1q, so it's pretty much trunking to that particular VLAN, and I've got 100 as the voice VLAN, so that's all working fine. Try to set up HTTP server, including the actual Core Manager Express GUI, but we actually don't have the files, so we're unable to do that. We do have the HTTP server to actually use with our GUI, however, which we'll show you in a minute. Actually, it's really close. We also put in this command because in order for our music on hold to actually work, we would need that command. Here's the juicy parts of our config, as in the telephone service config stuff. As you can see, we've decided that we're going to use 3 earphones as the maximum. We've got 5 extension numbers, even though we're actually not using 2 of them. We also hooked up the source IP address to the voice VLAN as we needed to, making sure it uses port 2000. Also put a custom system message on once the phones actually turn on, says TAFE phone network, which I'll show you in another video. Also defined where all our configuration files for the phones are, which is okay on the flash, so you get them locally. That reminds me, I have to also show you this part here. Basically, we're defining where our binary and configuration files are for the phones, and basically the router is actually running a TFTP server to do that, so the phones will get the configuration files and binary files. We also create the configuration files as well, as you can see here, and we've set up some music on hold stuff. So we're using the default Cisco music on hold until we figure out how to actually create our own music on hold for now. And we set up some multicasting, so the music on hold is actually transmitted to all the voice over IP phones that are connected. And the other part of the config is the ePhone directory numbers. As you can see here, we've got 4 in total, however one's not in use. And we've also got the label, so for example, on this particular phone number, if it's hooked up to any of these phones, that number will appear. And instead of saying the number 1234, it will say Maty instead as the label, which I'll show you in another video. So we've got the same thing for all these phones. Then we've got the actual the voice over IP phone config. It's needed to type in the MAC address to identify the phone, tell it what type it is, then hook it up to a button. which was fairly simple actually. And we also enabled some telnet just in case we wanted to actually remote into the routers with telnet instead of using our serial port. That's basically it for our command line based config. The other thing I wanted to show you was this GUI here. This GUI has actually helped us a lot in terms of configuring our voice over IP phones. Basically, in order to do so, you can click on Manage Devices, type in the IP address, the credentials, the password, and if it's using HTTPS or anything secure like SSH or whatever, make sure you tick that, and that will allow us to get our device happening here. When we click our Configure tab here, and this will allow us to configure the router itself if we want to. So for example, I can edit our DHCP settings that we've got. That's pretty much dishing out addresses to our computers and voice over IP phones. We've also got the unified communications section here, which is our voice over IP stuff. So for example, here's what the features that we've enabled or got. This is the actual settings for the telephone system once it loads. It may take a fair bit of time to load. So in this section here I can, for example, just edit all the basic stuff that you would do in command line really. Even a system message and all that sort of thing. And we've also configured our extension numbers and phones and users using this GUI. I will make another video to show you these phones working, and we'll have them sent to you soon. Thanks for listening.